All right, let's look at how we might build map from scratch to really understand how it's supposed to work behind the scenes. And I'll start off with the example that we have here. All right, this is map. Now, the idea of map is sort of like for each in the sense of we want to loop through the array, right? All these functions do that. They're iterator functions, or and they will loop through the array that we use them on. Now, in that loop, what we want to do is essentially return a new array. So map is not like for each. In fact, most of the iterator functions that we're going to look at actually create a new array based on the old array. So in this case, we've got plain nums, which is just 1, 2, 3, and then increase nums is 6, 7, 8. So it's the same thing as nums, but it's this nums array where each item has been plus 5. And this is how it looks, right? We do this. We say we create a new variable that's going to be the new array. We call map on our old array, and we pass in an iterator function that's going to do that. Now, of course, I can, like I did before, stub this out. I can say var increase nums, not to be confused with increased, equals, I can basically pull out this function. Or a better name is probably, say, add 5, right? And I can pass add 5 here. If I go and refresh this in my browser, it's going to do the same thing. So it still works, but that syntax might be a little bit easier to read. Okay, given that, how do we essentially do this from scratch? Now, we're going to keep our nums array here. We're going to define a function called var mymap, just to distinguish it from the normal map function. Now, map's going to take, of course, the argument that it does take by default, which is a function. So I'm just call it func. But in our case, if we don't want to use the prototype methods yet, we could also make it take an array, right? And the way we would invoke it would basically be like var increase nums equals mymap. I could use nums, and let's continue using add 5, add 5. So that's what we want it to do. And ideally, increase nums, if we console log it, would be 6, 7, 8, right? So same result that we had before. So how does this look behind the scenes under the hood? Well, as always, we're doing a for loop. So we're going to say for var I equals 0. I is less than array dot length I plus plus. Cool. And then we're going to call whatever function was passed in with the item passed into it, just like we did before. The same thing is for each in this case. So we're going to say, I can say var item to make my syntax easier, array bracket I. Then I could say func item. Okay, so if we check this out and we refresh, we're going to get undefined. That's because map is asking for something different. It's not just asking for a for loop, but it's asking us to create a new array, which we haven't done yet. And so when I say var increase nums equals the result of calling mymap these arguments, well, the result of calling this mymap function is undefined because this function doesn't actually return anything, right? And so what we want to return is a new array. So I could do something like this and say var new array equals empty array. Then at the end of the function, I want to return the new array. Now, the only thing that's different here is instead of just calling this function, I want the results of calling this function to be pushed to my new array. So I could say new array dot push whatever that result is. So in this case, when I call func with the item passed into it, what I'm going to have is this item is my number. My number here, we're going to add 5 to it, and we're going to return that result. So in the beginning, it's going to be we're going to return 6, then we're going to return 7, then we're going to return 8. And every time those returns happen, we're going to push them into this new array. And at the end of this whole thing, we're going to return this new array. So if we go look at that, we'll see we get the same result. 6, 7, and 8. So we've literally built the map function from scratch. Now, of course, we want to refactor this to add it to the array prototype. We can say array.prototype.mymap equals function. And of course, instead of referring to this array, we need to use the this keyword. And so we'll remove that array. We'll use the this keyword. And go back and refresh. Oops, it says mymap is not defined, line 27. All right, so we have to refactor the way we're using it, remove nums, and now we can just call it write on nums. Nums.mymap. Refresh it, and bam, it works. So now you've just built the map function from scratch. Hopefully that helps you understand it a little bit better and how it's different from for each. Now, a common problem we see is people using the map function and just doing a for loop like you could with for each. The purpose of the map function is to return a new array. All right.